Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Sports Wrap with Michael Kravetz. I am your host, Michael Kravetz, and I'm recording today on Wednesday instead of the normal Thursday because I feel with the Steelers season just starting and having the games on Sunday, it's kind of too late if I start on Thursday about evaluating the game they played previously on Sunday. So I'm going to either try and do these recordings either Tuesday or Wednesday from now on, up until the Steelers season's over with. And also, I apologize for not putting the last episode up, which is supposed to be episode 9, but this one will be the 9th episode because, let's just say it was a bad week for my show, and of course all the Pittsburgh sports teams in general. The show I recorded last Tuesday was going to be my NFL prediction show, and also, talking about the Pirates and the Panthers. And it turns out I accidentally deleted it off the computer before I could upload it, so I apologize. So I will run over my NFL predictions to start off this episode. And bear in mind, I know we're through 1 week of the NFL season, but I did not change my picks. I made these last Monday I made my predictions. So I guess I'll just go down the list and give you my picks. In the AFC East, I see the Patriots being at the top, Jets in second, Bills in third, and the Dolphins in fourth. In the AFC North, I have the Steelers in first, the Ravens in second as a wild card, the Bengals followed by the Browns. In the South, I have the Texans, Titans, Colts, Jaguars. And in the West, I have the Chargers, the Chiefs as the second wild card, the Broncos, and the Raiders. My AFC champion is the Steelers, and my AFC sleeper is the Colts. I have a feeling that with Andrew Luck, they're going to be a lot better than 2-14. And I consider 8-8 to be a sleeper record because the wild card 9-7 or 10-6 might get you there. So the Colts, maybe a few games out this year. Of course, they're not ready to make the playoffs this year, but I see them as a possible sleeper to make some hay in the AFC race. Now, as we go down to the NFC, in the East, I have the Cowboys, Eagles, Redskins, Giants. In the North, the Lions, Packers as a wild card, Bears, Vikings. In the South, I have the Falcons and the Panthers as my second wild card, followed by the Saints, Buccaneers. And in the West, I have the 49ers, Rams, Seahawks, and Cardinals. My NFC champion is the 49ers, and my NFC sleeper is the Redskins. Now, of course, after week 1, the sleeper pick for me, the Redskins, looks pretty darn good after RG3 put on that spectacular showing in New Orleans, but I know it's just week 1. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. As far as my Super Bowl pick goes, I have the Steelers beating the 49ers 31-20. My NFL MVP is Matthew Stafford. My NFL Offensive Player of the Year is Andre Johnson. Defensive Player of the Year is Lamar Woodley. And the Coach of the Year is Norv Turner. Steelers record, I have them going 14-2. Since they already have a loss to start off the season, they're going to have to go 14-1 the rest of the way for my pick to be right. The Steelers MVP I have is Ben Roethlisberger, and the best record in the NFL I think will be the Steelers at 14-2, and the worst record will be the Browns at 3-13. So, besides my NFL predictions, I want to get in to discuss the Steelers' first game they had with the Denver Broncos. Going into the game, I thought that either team could win. I wouldn't be surprised if the Broncos beat the Steelers. I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers beat the Broncos. I wasn't expecting a blowout, and frankly, even though the score might indicate there was one, there was not a blowout. The Steelers' offense, it took them a while to get going, but I thought they did a good job of clock management, especially in the third quarter, only allowing Peyton Manning to get on the field once, but they ended up scoring a touchdown the one time they're on the field. So they're moving the ball effectively down the field and not doing it at a fast pace. There were a few deep balls that Ben overthrew and missed receivers. Obviously, with time, I think they'll work those kinks out, especially with Wallace. He had a touchdown pass. He had a touchdown reception. It was a short touchdown reception. Once he gets into the playbook a little more, you'll be seeing more of the explosive passes downfield, because obviously he has the speed that he can blow by any corner in the game. I thought Emmanuel Sanders did a really nice job in this game. He was not afraid to go up middle or deep. It seemed like Ben, for most of the passes that he threw, he was looking Emmanuel's way, in either the first target or the second target. So that's saying something, because obviously Brown and Wallace are your top two receivers. One of them's probably going to get double covered, which means that leaves Emmanuel Sanders in man-to-man most of the time, since he is your third receiver, your slot receiver. So if he keeps getting open as he did in the Denver game, he may see double teams in the future, and then that'll leave open Brown and Wallace, and then with Cotchery in the mix, I think it'll open up the field and allow Ben to find more targets. And I mean, he was trying to throw to everyone in this game. Cotchery was the only exception. I think he may have thrown one ball his way, but Miller had a lot of passes thrown his way. Brown had 4 receptions for 74 yards. Sanders 4 receptions. Miller 4 receptions. And also Wallace 4 receptions. And obviously as the season progresses, I mean, Wallace will probably get the majority of the balls thrown toward him. But I was really disappointed overall in the Steelers' effort in this game, especially on the defensive side. I know James Harrison's not in there. I know Ryan Clark's not in there. But they let Darius Thomas torch them again on a screen pass. He turns the screen pass into a 71-yard touchdown. He blew by Polamalu, who made a poor decision on the play. He even admitted that he did. He blew by Ryan Mundy, and he was giving Ike Taylor fits all game. Obviously, last year, after the 35-7 drubbing by the Ravens, Warren Sapp famously said, "Oh, this defense is done. They're old and tired." And once again, after the first game this year, you can say the same thing. But I'm not too quick to jump the gun and say, "Oh, this defense is going to be horrible the rest of the year," because last year they had a top 5 defense, and they hardly had any turnovers. Now, they did have a turnover in this game, forced fumble caused by Larry Foote, who was the most impressive player on the defensive side for the Steelers in Sunday's game. He's 32, and you would have figured, okay, maybe Woodley or Timmons might have the best game since they are a lot younger, but no, Foote really stepped up and played a great game. He had 7 tackles, 1 sack, forced the fumble, and really he pressured Manning the most out of all the linebackers and the whole defense, for that matter. And it's really encouraging to see because, you know, he was primarily a backup last year behind Ferrier and Timmons, and when he previously was with the Steelers in 2008, Timmons took his job. So it's nice for him to come out here and, you know, still show the aggressiveness that he had when he was a part of the Steelers Super Bowl team in 2005 and for the years after. So I'm not worried about him. If Harrison can't play in the next game, I'm still worried about Woodley because obviously teams are going to be more focused on him on the outside because you have Chris Carter on the other end, who was in his first year. He's a rookie. He didn't show me that much. Granted, Denver has a good offensive line. I was expecting a little bit more out of him. He's young. He should have been enthusiastic, and I just didn't see the type of effort that I would have liked to see from him. But Jason Worlds, I thought, played a good game. He had a sack on Manning, and I would prefer to see him in there over Carter if Harrison can't go next Sunday. Like I said about Polamalu, he didn't look the same in that game. Normally, you know, he'd be all over the field, but with the absence of Ryan Clark due to the sickle cell trait, LeBeau, his schemes had to change, and the blitzing schemes had to change so that Polamalu would primarily be in the backfield. And when he's in the backfield, of course, Manning was going straight to the running game, and Polamalu was always there to like blow up holes, and really no one was there to stop the running back tandem of Moreno and McGahee. It seemed like they were just beating them pound for pound. The defensive linemen, the linebackers, they couldn't get any pressure to force the running backs to make any mistakes. They were just pounding the ball straight down the field. And it's amazing that the defense looked so tired, considering they weren't on the field as long as a tired defense should be. Like I said, in the third quarter, they were only out on the field once. And in that possession for Denver, they scored a touchdown. So there's definitely alarming issues, but it's one game. I mean, it happened last year, and they played worse in the first game last year, and they ended up finishing 12-4. So I'm not going to jump to any conclusions based off one game. The mistake that happened at the end of this game was when the Steelers were down 25-19 with a little over 2 minutes left, and you knew Ben was going to be throwing the ball. And he hit Sanders for, I believe it was almost a 20-yard pass, and they were at the Steelers' 38-yard line. And you knew he was going to try, or I'm sorry, he threw the ball to Antonio Brown, and they were at their own 38. Now, they only had one timeout, and plus the 2-minute warning. You knew he was going to be forcing stuff in there, probably. And on the next play, they try an out pattern to Emmanuel Sanders, and Tracy Porter jumps the route, returns the interception for a touchdown. Virtually almost the same exact play that he, when he was with the Saints in the Super Bowl against the Colts, he intercepted Peyton Manning and returned it to the house. It was a little disappointing because you figure we've seen this before. Roethlisberger leading a team down to get the winning score with around 2 minutes. We saw it in Super Bowl 43. As hard as it is to believe that was 4 years ago. But it was frustrating as a fan to watch that. But like I said, it would have been a shock for them at that point, I thought, for them to pull out a win, because it just seemed like everything was going Peyton Manning's way. And even if the Steelers were to get closer down to the field, something would have happened. I really don't believe they would have scored the touchdown to win the game. But I mean, it's one game, and I'm not going to blow anything out of proportion. I still believe this Steeler team will make the playoffs, and possibly they will meet Denver again. I mean, for me, that was the only thing I was worried about. People are saying, oh, you lost to Denver. It's not that big of a deal. It kind of is, because Denver will be in there at the end in the mix for the playoff spot. And if it comes down to a tiebreaker, then they're obviously going to have the edge. And we may have to play in the playoffs again and go to Denver, which means we're automatically going to be without Ryan Clark. Personally, them losing there, every time they play in Denver, when Ryan Clark is on this team, I don't think they're going to win, because it's shown that has been that much of a problem, that they are not able to handle the passing attack of the Broncos without Clark. So I really hope it doesn't come down to that, because if it does, then it'd probably be a short stint in the playoffs again for the Steelers if they have to go to Denver at some point. Another thing that I was really disappointed in was the running game. Isaac Redman did not look good to me at all. 11 carries, 20 yards, less than 2 yards a carry. Baron Batch was sparingly used. Jonathan Dwyer was the one that provided a spark, I think, and he was given extra effort. He wasn't getting taken down the first time he got hit. He kept going. I think he should be the one that starts in the game against the Jets. And obviously Mendenhall, you don't know. He was listed as doubtful for the Broncos game. He never did play. I think they're not going to play him until after the bye week. That's going to be after the first 4 weeks. So they got the 3 games in the bye week. I think he'll be healthy enough by then to start. I don't know. I was just disappointed in the running game. The screen pass. Todd Haley said that was going to be an effective part of the Steelers' game plan And yet, I think they did a screen pass once, and that was to Will Johnson, fullback, who was barely in. They did not use any I formations with Will Johnson in there and then the running back behind him. I don't know why they didn't, because they did that in preseason and they looked pretty decent at it. So hopefully they go back to that in next week's game against the Jets, because I think that's the only way their running game is going to be successful. Because if you go back in if they run a single back formation, they don't have the type of running backs right now that can have a burst of speed. I know Redmond's fast, but he's not as fast as Mendenhall, and they really haven't been able to run that effectively since Mendenhall's second year with the team. So hopefully they go back to the I formation and also include Will Johnson more, because like I said, I didn't see any swing passes that much or screen passes, and you have the type of players that can be explosive. Chris Rainey was barely used in that game. He was used in a couple running plays, more than he was used being in the short passes, which you need to do that. He is the type of running back like Darren Sproles who can, get when he gets his engine going, he can go a long way. So hopefully they use more of those plays with Rainey, Dwyer, Redmond, and Will Johnson, because I think that'll be difficult for other teams to stop if you mix that in with your conventional offense, finding Heath Miller, Antonio Brown, and Mike Wallace. So on Sunday, 4:25, the New York Jets will be coming into Heinz Field. The Jets had an impressive victory against the Buffalo Bills in their opening week. Mark Sanchez played probably one of his best games of his career. 19 for 27, 266 yards, 3 touchdowns. Tim Tebow was a non-factor in this game. He had 5 carries for 11 yards. He was actually booed when he was brought in for Sanchez, so that was a bit of a shock, but I don't think he's going to be playing quarterback much of all this year. And obviously, though, I think the Jets are going to use Tebow a little bit more against the Steelers, because they know that he beat the Steelers last year in the playoffs with the Broncos. So I don't know how much of a quarterback he's going to play, but I know he'll be in there running back. He'll probably line up as a receiver, as a decoy. So the Steelers are going to have to watch out for that. As far as the receivers, rookie Stephen Hill looked very impressive. 2 touchdown catches. You have Santonio Holmes still to worry about. Steelers secondary is going to have some tough spots, especially Keenan Lewis. Didn't look too sharp against Denver. He'll probably have the duties of covering Santonio Holmes or Stephen Hill, whichever way they do it. I think Ike Taylor will be all right, but with Ryan Clark back, though, the safeties position will shore up there, and then Polamalu will be able to be all over the field, which is where he should be. So I don't see the Steelers being in too much fence. I don't think they're going to be
as muddled up and as, I guess, slow, if you could say, as they were against Denver, because I think that they'll be able to handle what the Jets bring at them on the offensive side of the ball. And I know the Jets have a good defense, so I think it's going to be a good test for the Steelers as well, because the Jets, they're going to be close to the playoffs too at the end. So this is a good measuring stick for the Steelers team this year on how they're going to fare against this New York Jets team. So my prediction for next week, Steelers have not gone 0-2 since 2002. I don't think it's going to happen again. I don't think they're going to lose their first game at Heinz Field. I actually think they're going to go undefeated this year at Heinz Field. So I am predicting a Steelers win 31-16. Now, you know what? I'm going to change that. I think the Steelers are going to win it 34-16. That's my prediction. So, transitioning now into the Pirates. I guess you could say that they are on life support now, because the Pirates have stumbled ever since they took 2 or 3 from Houston. They were swept at home by the lowly Chicago Cubs. I was at the game last Friday. It had to be the worst Pirate game of the season. They lose the game 12-2 and commit 7 errors. It was the most
amount of errors they've committed since 1985. Marte had one, Barajas, Harrison, Holt, Alvarez. They just looked horrible in that game. Their offense looked lifeless. It was one of the worst games I've ever been to in my life. And it was not a good day at the ballpark. And then they followed up by losing a one-run game Saturday night and then losing another game Sunday afternoon. Grilly was the loser of both games, giving up the go-ahead home run on Sunday and then allowing the go-ahead run on Saturday as well. So it was not a good weekend for the Pirates. And now they were in Cincinnati. Monday night, 14-inning game. They end up losing 4-3. And then last night they end up losing 5-3. The amazing thing is that despite all of these losses, they are still 2.5 games out of the wild card spot. The Dodgers keep losing and the Cardinals keep losing. They are still in this, and it is September 12th. The problem the Pirates are having, they cannot seem to find the hit that brings in runs that will ultimately win them the game. In the Chicago Cubs series, they were 3 for 21 with runners in scoring position. That is below 200. Their season average is 240. They looked bleak. Pedro Alvarez looked horrible. He's looked horrible these past 5 games. In the 14-inning game, he went 0 for 6 with 4 strikeouts. They had the bases loaded in the top of the 14th. Nobody out. Chase Darno swings at the first pitch, pops it up. Alvarez swings at the first pitch, ground out, force out at home. And then Tabata weakly grounds out on the second or third pitch. They're not taking their time. They are frustrated, which is that's why they are rushing things at the plate. And they're just not getting the opportune hits. When McCutchen comes up with runners in scoring position, he seems to fly out, a deep fly out. He's not hitting the ball too well either. Although he has hit a home run in back-to-back games, Monday and Tuesday against Cincinnati. There are multiple decisions by Clint Hurdle in these past 5 games that have baffled me. Monday night's game, he takes Wandy Rodriguez out with runners on first and second and 2 outs to bring in Jared Hughes to face DeAndre Navarro, who was a switch-hitting catcher, and he was hitting from the left side, so that's why they brought in Hughes. And he ends up giving up a 2-run double to tie the game for the Reds. And then the Pirates ultimately lose the game in extra innings. It's just frustrating because 6 weeks ago they were 16 games over 500. 16 games. And now they are 72 and 69. 3 games over. They are in jeopardy of not finishing the season over 500, which will be a total collapse, worse than last year. And I would be crushed if they cannot reach over 500. It seems like this team does not know how to win all of a sudden. Their bullpen struggling. If the starting pitching does good, the bullpen struggles. Their offense, it's lackluster. It seems like they have no pulse. It's been miserable, pretty much. And hopefully Neil Walker will return. He will be available as a pinch hitter, supposedly tonight. I'm assuming he will be back in the lineup starting Friday because Holt, he has shown some sparks on offense, but defensively, he is not there yet. He's not on the major league level for second baseman. And hopefully Marte will get things back together. He wasn't in the lineup last night. Hopefully he'll be in there tonight because he provided a spark when he came up in July, and I think he needs to produce to help this team even more. But, like I said, they're still 2.5 games out. As surprising as much as they've struggled. But, the other thing you got to be concerned about is the Philadelphia Phillies and the Milwaukee Brewers are 500. 71 and 71, identical records. And they are 1.5 games back from the Pirates. and 4.5 back, or I mistake, 4 games back of the second wild card spot. And back in mid-July, the Phillies and the Brewers were dead. I thought they were dead in the water. So many games below 500, but they have hit their stride. They're on a hot streak, and they are closing in. And it would be something if the Pirates ended up not going over 500, finishing in 4th place, finishing behind St. Louis, the Dodgers, St. Louis, the Dodgers, Phillies, Brewers, and even the Diamondbacks. It would be an utter disgrace, to say the least. But do I actually think Milwaukee or Philadelphia will get in? No. They've been on such a hot streak that they're due to go on a losing streak, or the Pirates, Cardinals, and Dodgers, they may win. So I don't know if they're going to actually catch them. The schedule right now of those 5 teams, well, if you want to throw Arizona in there, those 6 teams, the schedules favor the Pirates and the Cardinals because they play the teams with the most losing record, with the losingest records. But as we have seen, St. Louis has struggled and the Pirates have struggled. So nothing's a given at this point. The Cardinals and the Dodgers have a huge 4-game series coming up. And the Pirates, of course, they have their game of the final game of the 3-game set with the Reds tonight, off tomorrow, and then a huge 4-game series at Chicago. As much as I hate to say it, I think they need to sweep the Cubs to gain the most ground, because if St. Louis and the Dodgers were to split and the Pirates sweep the Cubs, you're gaining 2 games. And like I said, I'm not giving up on them if they're within 3 games of the wild card spot at the end of this road trip. And so far, they're still 2.5 back. So I'm not giving up on them yet. Because after the road trip, they got 3 at home against Milwaukee. And they can do a lot of damage by beating them 3 times and putting them out of the picture. So really, it's in the Pirates' hands. They are facing teams that have a worse record than them, and it's right in front of them. All they have to do is go out and try and find a way to win and hopefully get on a long winning streak, because this team is due for one. Their longest winning streak is 5 games. Is it more likely that they won't? Is it more likely that they'll go on like a 3 or 4 game losing streak than go on a 7 or 8 game winning streak? Of course. But with the teams that they're playing, it's definitely possible for them to go on a hot streak. So I'm not giving up on them just yet. Well, now I also wanted to get into the Pitt Panthers. In so far what has been one of the worst seasons I can ever recall following the Panthers. 0-2 after a embarrassing defeat at the hands of the Cincinnati Bearcats on national TV last Thursday. Losing the game 34-10. Pretty much showed no signs of life in the game whatsoever. It made things worse when they were down near the red zone. At the end of the half, they were down 17-0 already. With 5 seconds left, they thought they could get a play off. And Sanseri double pumped and ended up throwing the ball through the field goal post with no time remaining. So they ended up getting no points. And their defense still looked awful. The running game, they were running all over them. Ray Graham was the only bright spot. He continued to run the ball. Sanseri, though, just seems an enigma to me. But I know people are saying, oh, they should throw in Wojtek, forget Sanseri. I don't think you should do that. You should redshirt Wojtek. I mean, this is Sanseri Sr. You should ride him out. It's his season. And with Virginia Tech coming in, who was in the top 15, it'd be a miracle, I think, if the Panthers were to win the game. I'm just hoping to see some sort of improvement on offense and defense. Maybe have a closer game than what your first 2 games have been. Put up some points on the board. Try, get some turnovers on defense. And get some sacks. They have 1 sack so far in 2 games. And that's just not good enough for a Division I defense to have 1 sack in 2 games. Now, some of the starting players, a few of them have been benched, actually. Andrew Taglianetti and Rick Cole, who were the starting safeties, are now being benched in favor of Jared Hawley and Jason Hendricks. that's the position they have the most depth at. So those 4 guys are solid players. Paul Chris just thinks like a different rotation of Hawley and Hendricks might provide a little spark on defense. And I agree. I think you should provide a spark by switching players. I think it will. But, the seniors of this team, they just got to get the young guys together and say, come on, this is our last year. Let's just go out and give it our all and hopefully put together at least a winning season, 7-6 maybe, or 7-5, possibly 6-6, so they can try and at least get to a bowl game. Looking at Pitt's schedule, I mean, I don't know how the other Big East teams are going to fare because this division is weak, conferences. So, but just the way the Panthers have looked, based on the first 2 games, I couldn't see them winning more than 3 games this year. But depending on how they improve, I mean, they got Virginia Tech at home, then Gardner-Webb. I'm assuming they'll at least win one of those games, if not both, if they're lucky. But it's just a little frustrating because I didn't have high expectations for them, but I didn't expect them to start off the season 0-2. So we'll see how Sinceri does, if he can be a little bit more composed better. See how Ray Graham does. See his knee gets even healthier. Let's just hope their defense shows a little bit more effort than it did in the first 2 games of the season. But that will probably do it now for the 9th episode, the official 9th episode of the Sports Wrap. And next week, like I said, it'll probably be either Tuesday or Wednesday that I record. I'm going to try and get this episode 9 up today. I've been having problems with loading it up through my computer, so I apologize. But on next week's show, we'll get into the Steelers-Jets game, dissect that, preview their upcoming 3rd game at Oakland, talk more about the Pirates. Hopefully they're still in this wild card race by next week. Talk more about the NHL labor negotiation. We'll know by then if we have a season or if there'll be a lockout to start the season. And also talk about the Panthers game with Virginia Tech. And also, I'll probably get into a little Pitt basketball as well. So, signing off, I'm Michael Kravetz, and you just listened to the Sports Wrap.